if you feel intimidated or afraid, if you do see someone out in public and you're afraid to approach them, listen to what Bruce just said. If you want to make someone's day, go and give them a compliment on their outfit. If it's a lady and you like her bag, I like your bag, I like your car, I like this, I like that. And that is what will be the conversation starter for maybe something greater.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. And you know, if you've listened to the show, is I have a belief that everybody needs to live a proactive financial planning life. You got to plan to succeed. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm joined by a friend of mine, Adam Stalmach. Adam's down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We've met through mutual connections. He's a younger person in the audience of mine, and I appreciate him being a fan of the Planman. And we had lunch a couple weeks ago. I said, listen, would you be interested in coming on the show and let's talk to the audience from a perspective of a younger generation? So Adam, you're 31.
Correct.
Single, but living, I believe you have a fiance or soon to be
girlfriend. Yes. Yep. Girlfriend. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped the gun there. But you're on your own. You're working in the. So tell everybody a little bit about you, your background, what you do, and then I want to kind of get into just this conversation of your perspective. You're the age of my kids, and when I was 31, I was already a parent. I was in the business since I was 23, so I had 8 years of experience as a financial advisor. But I want to give people the perspective from your vantage point.
Absolutely. Well, first off, Bruce, thank you so much for having me. Really is a pleasure. Our last conversation when we did get lunch was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. So 31 years old, I had a background in the restaurant industry. That's where it initially began for me. Got into door-to-door sales, phone sales, and then I kind of realized the world of commissions. I got very excited. The harder you work, the more you get paid. So currently, I'm actually working for a company called Bloom Growth. I'm an intrapreneur there. What I mean by that is they give me the freedom to bounce ideas off of the leadership team. They kind of give me the freedom to explore with different tools, softwares, approaches, things like that, which I really appreciate. And ultimately, what Bloom Growth does is we help businesses get more aligned and ultimately bring their business plan to fruition. So oftentimes a company will formulate a business plan and then just let it collect dust. They don't re-examine it. They don't modify it, edit it as time goes on. So we want to essentially help businesses grow, get teams aligned, build the team trust and accountability, who's doing what, by when. And then if one of our clients wants to potentially sell, we help position them in the appropriate way.
All right. So thank you for that. So it's Bloom, Bloom, Bloom.
Bloom Growth. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's get a little bit into the mechanics. So are you a base salary type person? Are you a commission only person? Are you a hybrid? Because that's, again, we don't need to know your numbers. That's not what's important, but I'm setting up the foundation of how your income's derived, what options people have out there, obviously, and then how you view potential savings standpoint.
Absolutely. So initially when I got into sales, it started as 100% commission only. In my humble opinion, I think that's the best way to learn sales because if you don't hunt, you don't eat.
Right.
My current role, I was blessed enough to get a base plus commission. Our software isn't high ticket. We believe more in purpose over profit, right? So I do have a base and then the commission, is minimal compared to what I'm actually making. So,
okay. So it's not a significant influence.
It is not, no.
Okay. No, because there are people out there that they get a very minimal base, and then they might have monthly or quarterly quotas or bogeys to hit where they get a chunk of money. And then there's people that, let's say in the pharmaceutical industry, where they get an annual bonus. AT&T would pay an annual bonus and, the pharmaceutical company. So, based on your merit awards, you got stock options, cash bonuses, whatever. And so what I've learned over the years is clients will build their lifestyle to the base income and then use that bonus money as a way to boost savings or make a big purchase like a car or pay down a chunk of their mortgage, whatever it is that they're in need of, pay for college if they're approaching, that timeline with their kids. So,
absolutely.
All right. So give us a sense you've been working pretty much since, I don't know if you went to college or not, but like what age did you really start working full time?
So I started at about 17 as a dishwasher. And then I did attend college for about half of a semester and I ended up walking out. I was going for marketing and communications. And that was kind of around the same time I came across sales, the door-to-door sales. And so the reason why I left college is because I had a professor there. It was my humanities class. And she was telling me essentially to take notes on human body language through a YouTube video based on a television show on Fox. Now, my initial thought was, why am I taking body language on actors? If anything, I'd like to, and this may sound controversial, but I'd like to read the body language of someone who is having their last interview as a death row inmate before they're getting, that's the real emotion, the passion,
right.
or not passion, but, the human tendency of reacting, right? Whether someone has an itch on their nose, they might be lying. Like, these are all things that any salesman or any individual for that matter should learn how to assess. Body language often screams louder than our words do.
It's an unappreciated skill set.
Absolutely.
For the average human being.
Yep.
I think I'll say it half kiddingly is, every married man out there knows the body language of his pissed off wife. So
That's right.
You get the eye roll and the arms cross and everything else. So it does translate into the sales world for sure.
100%.
So at door to door, man, I mean, there's not much more intimidating in the world of sales than knocking on cold doors and cold canvassing and cold doors. I remember having a paper out when I was 10 and I hated just knocking on the door to collect my money, let alone trying to get a new customer. You want your 25 cent a week newspaper or $1.50, whatever it was. I'm
absolutely.
10 years old, but all right. So from the standpoint of investing and or savings, when do you feel that light bulb or switch? Like, how early did you start? Was it something that you were in tune with, or maybe not till later on? But, working at 17 and pretty much not having the 4 years dedicated to college like a lot of people do, you got a faster start. So were you able to take advantage of that? I've got episodes about the time value of money and the compounding and, having my teenage kids setting up Roths.
Right.
Once they got their first W-2s and they were students, so there was no taxation on it. So what was your early journey there?
Yeah. I mean, from a young age, even when I was 15, 16, I understood the importance of it, right? I was familiar with the Warren Buffetts, the Charlie Mungers, this and that. And I understood that there is no such thing as get rich quick. There is no such thing. Get rich quick also translates to go broke quick.
Right.
I think Brad Lee has the saying, he says that, fast and easy money is the hardest to make because you end up paying for it later on, which I think is absolutely true. But the way that I looked at it is, to your point, since I didn't have that 4-year college degree, I needed to invest in myself, right? Because that's what college is. Ultimately, you're investing in yourself and your skill set. And so I kind of took a step back and say, okay, well, how can I do that? So courses, books, masterminds, seminars, getting into the rooms with people who already accomplished what I'm looking to accomplish. And I mean, I'm not afraid to say I do like nice things. I'm not going to say I'm 100% materialistic, but when I see a Rolls Royce driving down Los Olas Boulevard, I'm turning my head, right? I'm appreciating that craftsmanship of the vehicle.
Sure. But you're seeing a $400,000 bill floating by.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of coin.
Yeah,
Las Olas is in Fort Lauderdale, folks. If you don't know where Las Olas Boulevard is, the main drag of Fort Lauderdale. If you ever come down, so go ahead.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I got a question. Can I cut off for a second? So
yeah, absolutely.
How does a 15-year-old come to know about Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger?
YouTube videos, a lot of YouTube videos. It all started off with
YouTube generation.
Yeah. I mean, it started off with Napoleon Hill. We have all
you
these.
Are an old soul.
I am. I really am. I mean, the bookshelf behind me, you're going to find like Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, things like that. But I kind of took the approach of, okay, so you have a lot of the gurus, I'd say, of today's age, right? You have the people giving business advice, but who did they learn from? Who did their mentors learn from? Yeah. I went all the way back even to Earl Nightingale is one of my favorites. And they all preach the same thing is, investing in yourself, success leaves clues, follow the clues. It's not essential. It's not, just down to the how to do it, but it really is a mindset of, you do the inputs create the outputs, right? So I was reading those books, and first off, if you're going to invest something monetarily, you need to have the income to do it. So you need to work first, and then depending on what the market values you at, whether it's hourly or salary, then you can, as you said, take that chunk and then, invest into certain things. I do think it's important to understand what you are investing into. Now, especially with the GameStop and the AMC trend that happened a few years back, everyone became a stock market, expert overnight. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that is one of those examples of, easy money goes away very easily as well. So just educating yourself on what you want to invest in. These days, there are so many different opportunities, whether it's, real estate, you can do Airbnb, which is another sector of real estate. You can do stocks, you can do crypto, whatever it may be. I know people who flip luxury vehicles as well. So it really depends on, number one, what are you interested in? What's going to get you the higher ROI, and how long you're willing to wait for that ROI to, come to fruition.
Patience, definitely key.
Absolutely.
I have a line, getting in is easy. Getting out is hard.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Getting out is hard. That's the hard part, because your emotions kick in, the market turns bad, the economy turns down, all of a sudden you're not getting rentals in your B&B.
Yeah.
Do I bail? But ultimately, long term, everything returns back. And it's how you get through those times of weakness.
Right.
Right. And what does Warren Buffett do? He steps in whenever he runs through the exit that everybody's running out of.
Absolutely. 100%. Put, I mean, there's that saying that says, only the paranoid survive. But if you take a look and zoom out on the actual market, you might have bad years or, 2 or 3 years consecutively. But if you take a look at the S&P 500 over the entire lifespan that, it's been going up, it's up. It's always up. And it's going to continue to go up. So,
but there's hiccups along the way.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And those hiccups become painful.
Very painful.
And you're too young to know the last patch of them and have any significant money at risk. But, when somebody sees their nest egg drop 30, 40%, common sense and rationalization go out the window. Because when they see 1 million go to 600, they don't want to see another 400,000 disappear. They've already lost 400. And so they hit the panic button and they want to get out, and they want the pain to stop. And inevitably, that's the bottom. That's the capitulation. And so, to date, Warren Buffett, we're recording in September of 2024. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has approached, I don't think it's maintained, $1 trillion valuation, and he's sitting on $250 million in cash.
Yeah.
He's 25% cash. He's got $250 billion. He just sold pieces of Apple. He sold pieces. I think he sold half of his Bank of America stock. These are things he's owned for many years, and he didn't get out of them, but he pared back a tremendous amount of each of those two stocks, and he's raising cash. What's he going to do with it? You have $250 billion as a business floor. You can buy countries, let alone companies. There's a lot of companies that are barely worth $5 billion or $1 billion. So, I suspect he's going to go shopping soon.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Something.
And there's something that we can all learn from him. He was playing the long game. He devoted his entire life to this. But another takeaway is his business partner, Charlie Munger. He was, and as Warren is as well, but he was an avid reader. Yeah. Right. So keeping that mentality of always be learning, you can be worth $100 billion. What else are you reading to get you to that next point? I mean, the distance between 1 million and 1 billion is insane. So 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. Think about that for a second.
Wow. Right? That's pretty big. Say it again. Let me write it down.
Yeah.
1 million seconds
is 11 days.
11 days.
Yep.
And 1 billion seconds is 32 years.
Correct.
He gets.
So that just kind of puts it into perspective. And you talk about, the Warren Buffetts, the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos. These guys aren't 1, 2, 10, 15 billion. They're 250 billion.
So you've acquired all this wisdom at a very nice, young, appreciative age.
Thank you.
Give us a sense, like what floats your boat? What do you like to do? What do you, if anything, what do you put your money in? What's your personal strategy there? If you want to name drop a couple things that you're buying, but again, it's I want to have the audience like, hey, there's a 30-plus-year-old. I guess are you deemed a millennial?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. So
proudly so, believe it or not.
You and my kids are millennials. So, what are the millennials doing? You mentioned the GameStop and that guy before. And that's why I said, getting out is hard because, you buy GameStop for $5 and it goes to $25 and then it goes to $250 and you're like, oh, I made 5 times my money. I could have made another 50 times my money. Right. So you can't begrudge the fact you made 5 times your money on somebody's whim.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And that's why I say, getting out is hard. So, but give us a sense, like are you doing anything systematically or on any programs, but do you care to share that? Yeah,
absolutely. So as of right now, I am not in stocks. I'm not, dealing with the crypto thing as of right now. I should have purchased Bitcoin earlier. I did have a little bit of XRP a few years back. I got rid of that though. Right now, what I'm really focusing on is growing my network. And going to masterminds here in Fort Lauderdale. Even if they're out of state, I'll fly out. I might be going to Bradley's and Andy Elliott's in October. But getting into rooms with people who are having conversations that impact the world. And what I mean by that is this. I would rather invest into companies and acquisitions than stock markets and things like that. Because, you might increase the valuation of a company, but how many lives are you changing by doing that versus investing into companies? And, a lot of the boomers now are wanting to get rid of their businesses, whether it's give them to their grandchildren who don't want to have anything to do with them. You can buy companies for a very cheap dollar amount than what you would normally be paying. But I like investing into things that I can see out there working in the real world. So for instance, here in Florida, a huge business is roofing, right? Because there's always hurricanes and things like that. Roofs need to get repaired. And so investing into companies like that actually help the community, people who live within the community and put food on their families' tables while still providing a service to those who need it. I like things like that. The whole internet money, buy my course and I'll change your life. You'll make, $50,000 a month. That might work for a little while, but eventually people are going to smell out the scam. And the people who teach you how to make that kind of money are usually not the ones, the people who are selling the courses. That is their main source of income, the course. It's not, anything else. And that Lamborghini is rented and they have to give it back later today. But, just investing in yourself, always be learning, go to masterminds, go to rooms where when you leave, people might have conversations about you later. And then you might get opportunities out of that. Hey, I spoke with so-and-so. They thought it'd be a good idea if we connected. That's what really drives me is, just purpose.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. So you mentioned some names, and some of those people have been on the Planman show. Bradley, I was on his show about a little over a year ago. And,
great episode, by the way. Great episode.
Thank you. Yeah. And then I was able to get him on our show. I met him through Coach Burt. So like you, I've always been a fan and a student of getting in rooms and, certainly the Zig Ziglars and the Brian Tracys and you mentioned Earl Nightingale. I mean, I've been listening. They were cassette tapes when I started.
What's that? No,
I'm a boomer. I'm not a millennial. And I would pop my cassette tapes in my car and listen to the various programs. It was Zig Ziglar being one of them. His programs were awesome. I got to see him in person in the 90s. He signed my Franklin Day Planner. So for those of you who have the gray hairs like me, I carried the Franklin Day Planner back then, and I took it and took tons of notes, and I went up to him afterwards, and he autographed it for me. So I have that signed. But to your point, and I'll tie it in, is in today's world, you're going to spend $100,000 to $500,000 on a college education, depending on what level schools people are going to these days, right? We've got friends at University of Miami. It's $90,000, Georgetown, Ivy Leagues. So, easily $100,000, and then if they go to postgraduate. So if you think about that, Adam foregone, for left.
Yep. Left.
He opted out of the conventional cycle, if you will, of people what he goes to, and instead has found rooms to go to. He mentioned masterminds or these other networking groups out there. And let's be clear, these can be from $1,000 to $10,000 tickets. They can be $25,000 tickets. So, they can range on, you want the VIP and sit up front and get the private dinner, or you want to sit in the back and at least be there, and get in the door for $250 or $500 plus travel, plus hotels, and, depending on where they are. So kudos to you, because I've done it. That's how I got to meet Brad Lee, was, being in the Coach Burt realm a few years ago. I started, events were going on, and I spent $10,000 to take a private plane trip with Coach Burt from Nashville out to Long Island. Is 3 years ago this month, September of 21. COVID was still around. Everybody was barely doing anything.
And you're here on a private jet.
And here I'm on a private plane. I was supposed to be 4 or 5 of us, but there were more like 15 or 18 of us. But now you're on a plane with, let's just say, 10 other people that also spend $10,000. Right. And everybody's eyeballing each other up, like, who's this guy? Who's that guy? What do they do? And, how did they afford a $10,000 ticket? Well, the event was spending time with Coach Burt. Brad Lee was on the plane with us. It's the first time I ever met Brad Lee. I didn't really know who he was. Everybody else on the plane knew who he was. So I was kind of sitting in the back, soaking it in. And we went out to Long Island, and there was a one-day event, a conference. Might have been kind of real estate-esque, because the two guys that hosted it and ran it were in the real estate world. But their headliner, their keynote, was Grant Cardone, who's big in the real estate world. We had Rene Rodriguez, who I still follow, and I've been to his events and done his coaching. They had Tim Grover. Tim Grover's big. He's got his 2 books, Relentless, and what's the other one? It's on my shelf over there. Winning. I think it's Winning. Tim Grover was the personal coach to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Yep. And a really cool dude, and about my age. And, again, we're just kind of sitting there chewing the fat at the bar. He knows I'm part of, Coach Burt's crew there. And he was very warm and welcoming. And we're talking with him and his agent. Who else was there? Those are the big names. But I got in the room. The lesson is, I got in the room. I positioned myself. I took pictures with everybody. Met Brad Lee. We had an evening event before we flew back to Nashville, and Brad Lee sits at my table, little cocktail party type tables. And I'm the only one of the dozen or so people. I think I told you this at lunch. I'm one of the only people for the 2 days or so we're there that never went up to him, never bothered him. Like, I didn't know who he was, so I wasn't hounding him.
And he probably loved that. So
he came over to me, and he's like, I sit here. And so he looks at me and he's like, so what's your story? Because he wants to know who I am, that I'm not really paying any attention to him, you know, and we're talking a little bit, and, just again, broke the ice. Yeah. Well, fast forward a year later, I didn't have my podcast at that time. I didn't start it till a few months later. I'm now at the next event of Coach Burt's, which is a yearly conference he does. Brad's the keynote, and very welcoming. If you ever see him, he'll always be gracious, take pictures. So I go over, and he had lost some weight, and I was in a weight loss journey myself. So I said, hey, here's our picture from last year. We're both looking a little bit leaner. And he's looking at the picture, and he goes, where was that? I said, that was the Grant Cardone event. We, flew out. He goes, oh, yeah. So he looks at my shirt. He goes, what's that? And if you're listening, I'm pointing to my Ask the Planman logo, which I wear on everything.
I love it. By the way, your air freshener smells amazing. I just want to say that.
Oh, thank you very much.
The air freshener is phenomenal.
Thank you. So I said, well, that's my podcast. And he goes, what do you do? And I tell him what I do. He goes, are you coming to our boot camp? So there's always an upsell, right? So the conference has another upsell, and they're going to have a 2 or 3 day branding boot camp out at Coach Burt's Lodge with him and Brad. And he says, if you come to the boot camp, I'll have you on my podcast dropping bombs, and we'll promote your show, Ask the Plan. And that was a $2,000 investment. And Brad always has a camera crew with him. And I look at the camera crew and I'm like, you got that on tape. Do not delete that. I've got proof. He said that. Yeah. He offered that to me.
That's right.
So I plopped down that $2,000. So the serendipity of going on the plane the year before opens up doors. I'm meeting some people. I became friendly and network with people that were on the plane still. We, still talking friendly with them, see them in similar circles and try and collaborate. And then John Wetmore is one of them. And Ryan Chikeli. So they were both on my show as well. And so they were byproducts of the plane event, right? And they became some kindred spirits and friends. And so now you hear the introduction of the Brad Lee to then re-engage with him, which then again for another small investment gets me an opportunity where Robin and I fly out to Vegas and we get to be on his show. And then I started participating in his weekly group. I don't know if you call it a mastermind, but he had a weekly group going. So I'm like, all right, it wasn't a lot of money. And that led to me asking him, would he come on Ask the Planman, which he did, which is episode 50. Like, share, and subscribe. Go to episode 50 of Ask the Planman, and you'll see the Bradley episode. No, he's got a book, and we talked about the book, and we talked about his ideologies, and he's an interesting guy. Certainly has his points of view and opinions, but if you, just like with Trump, if you take away the bluff, the fury around it, and you get into the key points of things, because a lot of people don't like Brad Lee, a lot of people obviously don't like Trump, and they're a little too boisterous. The ego's a little bit too much, and Brad is very strong in his views and opinions. But if you drill into it and really listen to what he's saying, Adam, he's got a lot of core, that makes sense.
Yep.
Philosophies, and it's easy to implement.
It's very easy, yeah. And one thing I'd like to add what that story was based around is proximity is power, right? And
I like that.
Even if it can be $1,000 or $10,000 or $25,000, it does pay off to pay to play. Yeah. But I don't want people thinking that when they're listening to this, well, I don't have $1,000 laying around. I'm just going to stay where I'm at for the rest of my life. No, that's not true at all. You can go onto Google, type in local networking events that are free, or sometimes even as low as $10 just to get in the room. And those are called Biz to Biz here in Fort Lauderdale. No matter where you're listening from, I'm sure that they have the same thing going on. You were a member of H7 with Clay Hicks, great guy. That's how we got connected. So you don't need to cough up a large chunk of change. Just know where you're going or know where you want to go, and then place yourself in those rooms.
Purpose and intent, right? The plan man.
Yeah, right.
What's your plan when you go to these events? What are you trying to accomplish? And did you set reasonable goals and expectations for it?
That's right.
And then assess afterwards, how did it work? Because it's not ROI, return on investment. It's ROI, return on involvement.
Yeah, boom. I like that. And another thing as well that's very important to consider with the body language as well is you can be at a local restaurant and run into someone that you may end up doing business with down the road. It comes down to being okay with humility and giving out compliments, right? So let's say you do notice someone's nice watch that is a Patek and it costs them $60,000 to $80,000. They're not wearing that because they do not want to compliment. They're not telling you, there's that saying that is floating around Instagram lately. It says, I don't buy my watch to tell the time. I bought my watch to tell you how much my time is worth, right? So when people see that, they realize, oh, this guy probably coughed up $100,000 on a watch. Give them a compliment. Ask what they do. Some people may tell you to F off, but other people may give you the time of day. And, you might have a conversation, exchange numbers. Boom, you want to get on my podcast. You can network anywhere that you go. But the question is, where are you going? Are you going to the nightclub on a Friday, Saturday night? Or are you, getting into these rooms and going to these restaurants, maybe even a speakeasy or a coffee shop where people are with their laptops, they are working, they are providing value into the world. Those are the rooms I want to get into.
Cardone talks about in one of his many books, and I've listened to him all more than once. His stuff is really good. He again, a type of person you got to take with a grain of salt. Yeah, but the message is in there.
It is.
But my wife and Robin and I say it all the time: is you don't meet anybody at home. You don't meet anybody sitting at home. So we'll try. We certainly don't do it every week, but we'll go out to happy hour at 4:00 on a Friday, and I wear the Plan Man shirts, and we sit and we sit at the bar. Okay. We'll get a cocktail. We'll have a snack. And inevitably somebody walks by and they're like, hey, is that you? And I'm like, where? I play dumb. And they're like, on your shirt. And I'm like, oh, you think I look like that guy? And they're like, yeah. And so it just starts. What do you do? Da, da, da. So it's frequencing places on a regular basis. I go to a couple of different gyms. You see people there. I go to one, they're a few miles apart. One's tied in. I do the cold plunge. So I know all the people that work at the cold plunge. They too get air fresheners on a regular basis. They're loving it. Every time I hand them another batch, they're hysterically laughing like, we love these. They're so great.
They are great.
If folks, if you haven't seen my air freshener, it says, if you're tired of stinky advice, come ask the Planman. It says planman.tv. We'll hit that in there. Like, share, subscribe.
That's right.
Planman.tv.
Right.
That's my YouTube. But it's got this flavor to it. It's obviously it's for your car. It's an air freshener, and I tie it in. And I came up with it. I don't have a marketing department. It's like, are you tired of stinky advice? Like, hang this thing in your car, your air freshener. So I give them out all the time, and the girls there love it. And there's like 5-6 girls there, and I'm there several times. So you start to get this habit, this pattern. We went out. One of our neighbors owns a coffee shop nearby. It's pet friendly. She's always inviting us. Now, Saturdays, I'm at the gym, and then I cold plunge, and I'm not usually home much before 12, 1 o'clock, and she's closed, so we never make it. So I'm having an event this Saturday, and I'm like, fine, take the gym off. I said, we took the dogs, and they had a pet grooming place, and they had some pet food place. Like, she had a whole event around the animals tied in. And then we went in, we had coffee, we had breakfast. And so, but my car's got the magnets on it. I'm wearing the shirt. People are like, what do you do? I got the dogs. And all the young people that were working at the event, working in the restaurant. And then I gave them all air fresheners in my car, and they're like, and so they're instantly going to Spotify or Apple or YouTube, and they're subscribing. They're like, and I tell them, like, I've got episodes right for your age group, and I reference a couple of them, right? So I'm like, not every episode's going to be for you. You're not Medicare, worried about Medicare, but this girl's like, I couldn't pay my rent last month. I'm like, well, how'd you handle that? Well, I had to dip into my savings. I'm like, well, you should be looking at my episodes where I talk about budget. Like, take a look at that. And where's your money going? And, are you making enough? Are you in the right jobs? And then here's my number. Like, call me. Like, let's talk more if you need some help. Or she said, I don't make anything on my savings. I got 20 grand in the bank. And I'm like, she goes, I get like pennies. I'm like, well, there's high yield savings accounts out there.
Right.
No. I'm like, well, go home and Google it. Like, high yield savings accounts.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah, absolutely. It's just researching, right? I mean, collecting money. I mean, just having money in the bank when you have the knowledge of, excuse me, taking, let's say 10 grand of that and putting it into some things that are going to give you a return because you've done your research, you've done your due diligence. Maybe
right.
You met someone at a networking event that provided the opportunity to you. Those funds are much better off being put into motion than just sitting there collecting dust. But one thing I want to go back to really quickly, when you mentioned that you were at the bar and you're wearing the shirt, right? You got the magnet on your car. When people approach you and ask you, hey, is that you? How does that make you feel?
I love it.
You love it, right? So
I'm always a little embarrassed, but yeah, I enjoy being recognized. Sure.
Absolutely.
Listen, candidly, I've had to embrace becoming celebrity-esque. Not that I am,
yeah, right.
But you have to be comfortable with.
Yep.
And if I may tangent for a second,
yeah,
was a big motivation to my weight loss campaign, which I'm living every week on Facebook for the last 3 years, posting my weight loss journey, especially the first year when I lost 60 pounds and held myself accountable. And I was on a crusade and I had people come with me because I didn't want to be in the public eye and be a fat pig. And I was not healthy, nor I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't want to be perceived that way. Unfortunately, people in business, if you're sloppy and heavy and people look at you a different way of like, dude, if you can't get your SHIT together, like, why would I give you my money? Why would I want to do business with you? So, it definitely it was a motivating factor for me to get after. I was embarrassed and I didn't want to be a public persona. When the guy sorry, I told you it was a tangent. When the guy created the logo, the first intent was for it to just be like a microphone cartoon. It wasn't my face. And so he took the microphone and he had a hat and a pair of glasses, maybe a monocle, and like a little British goatee type of thing, right? And I posted the 3 options, and somebody said, "Well, you should make it your." These are called Van Dykes, actually. They're not goatees. He goes, "Why don't you make it your glasses and your Van Dyke? Your goatee." So I wrote him back, and I'm like, and again, it was supposed to be on the microphone. And the next thing I know, he's sending me a version of that. And I'm like, whoa, I don't want to be at the forefront of this. And my wife's like, She goes, that's it. And I had to embrace being the true face of it all when we created it. And of course, now I can't say it's iconic, but it's becoming iconic in the local area. 100%. People are like, I know you. And so that's the branding. So I'm sorry. And you're asking me about being recognized.
Right. And I absolutely love that because number one, you got your why. That's your why. It's like, okay, now I got to kind of become this guy on this logo, which is fantastic because, weight loss journeys or any kind of journey that anyone's on, they're not easy. That's why you have the idea to do it. And, as you're climbing the mountain, it becomes easier and easier the more that you're climbing. And then you look at the peak, like, okay, what's the next mountain I'm climbing? But the reason why I asked you that question initially, how does it make you feel? And you said good, right? It makes you feel proud, right? The reason why I asked that is for anyone listening, if you feel intimidated or afraid, if you do see someone out in public and you're afraid to approach them, listen to what Bruce just said. If you want to make someone's day, go and give them a compliment on their outfit. If it's a lady and, you like her bag, I like your bag, I like your car, I like this, I like that. And that is what will be the conversation starter for maybe something greater. What do you do? People think that asking, what do you do is an offensive question. No, you can reframe it. You could say, how do you add value to society? Right? I think that's a little bit more rude than the other one, but, just keep it casual, right? But you're just one contact away from a completely different life and an amazing opportunity. That's actually why college, for some, is so successful, because a lot of college graduates don't even work in the field of their studies. But why college is valuable, in my opinion, is the contacts that you make there.
It's a network, yeah.
Yeah, it's the contacts you make, and yeah.
I'll go on this little tangent, Bruce's point of view, because I certainly helped, dozens and dozens of families save for college. Mm-hmm. Over the years as a financial advisor and protecting it with insurances, like God forbid something happened to you, like how much life insurance would you need? Like, to cover the kids' college. He's got 2 kids, $250,000, whatever it was. And so, and again, this is strictly my point of view. And I hated to hear it out of the parents' mouths. If your child, my soapbox, if your child worked hard enough and deservedly was accepted to an Ivy League school, and the parent says, we can't afford for you to go there, and they have to go to some, and I'm not saying second tier, third tier, I went to a Division II Western Pennsylvania school. I'm not Ivy League, and I'm not sub Ivy League, and I'm probably not even league, let alone Ivy. So, but the opportunity that investment provides, going to Princeton, going to Harvard, going to Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, right?
Yep.
Michigan, Stanford, the sub Ivies, Lehigh, it's invaluable.
Right.
And you can't put a price tag on it. And if you've got a good enough kid, they're going to know what to do with that opportunity and that network. And so I was always so disappointed and certainly petitioned for the child of like, look, there's money out there, scholarships, grants, student loans for college. There's nothing out there for retirement. You can't get a student loan for retirement, right? So there's ways. I've had people that cash out their retirement plans to put their kids through college. that's a big move. Home equity lines. People have certainly used their equity in their homes over the years. So there's where there's a will, there's a way. And to me, what every parent ultimately has, I would think, not you can't say every, right? The majority of parents want is for things to be better for their child than it was for them. Right? I didn't get the opportunity to go to a big time school program. My oldest son had the opportunity to go to Arizona State, living in New Jersey, going across country. And I certainly vicariously lived through him of like, dude, I wish I could have gone to Arizona State. Like, I watch ESPN on Friday night and there's Arizona State on TV.
Arizona State's
ESPN.
a good time. I will say that. It is a good time. I think, FSU is kind of competing with them a little bit, but no, you absolutely nailed it. And, something that I kind of kept in the back of my head, growing up and watching a few of my classmates graduate and seeing the different paths that they're taking in life. Some of them were going to school for arts or business or whatever it may be. But school is definitely something that my mother, jammed down my throat. She flew from Poland when I believe she was in her early 20s. I was only 3 years old. My brother was 1. So I was born in Poland and we were raised in Chicago. And she, always talking about the importance of college, getting ahead. And that was something that she said, I want you guys doing better than I did. And when I left college, I knew it was going to, break her heart.
You broke her heart.
Oh yeah. I waited 2 weeks to tell her. I mean, I would, it was time for class and I would drive around town and, just go hang out at parks or go to a bookstore, Barnes and Noble, whatever. And when I did tell her, she was very upset. But then I kind of made a promise to myself that I'm going to show not only her, but my entire family that it can be done without a college degree. But I do agree with the name of, the Ivy League schools. If a parent's going to say no and the kid wants to go, I think that's doing the child an immense disservice. But if it's flipped and if the actual child doesn't want to go, but the parent wants them to go, I think, we're all individuals, but then that kid that doesn't go has no right to, badmouth their parents later down the road. You have no right to do that. So
no, it was usually in the sense of the kid got in and the parents said, we can't afford it.
Can't afford it. Yeah. That's sad.
The economy is like, shame on you because your kid worked really hard. Your kid is obviously gifted enough to have gotten in and you didn't plan the day that kid was born or sooner to make sure that the resources were put aside in case they got in. And that's the plan, right? Ask the Planman is, what are you doing? The second you have a child, like, what are you doing to make sure that what's your game plan? We had one client, they had 3 daughters, and they pretty much said, this is what we have for each of you, put aside. You can go anywhere you want. This is what you get from us. You figure out the rest. So they were in New Jersey. So if they went to a state school in New Jersey, let's say there was enough money covered. One wanted to go to Penn State. Penn State's out of school, back then, was maybe 40 grand and the parents had 25 for them. Okay, well, you work or get a job, that's the same thing. Work and get a job or get a loan. But if you want to go to Penn State, the rest is on you. And I like that because now the desire is there that kids going to be responsible. They're getting what they want. My game plan with my kids, I got divorced. My kids were 5 and 7. And to avoid them being spoiled by either one of us, the approach my ex and I was, we'll each pay a third. So if they want the new MacBook, well, your mom will pay a third and I'll pay a third. So how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? If you got to reach in your own pocket. So, I always try to have some discipline with the kids. They had their Roth IRAs. I funded most of it. I made them put a certain percentage of the money in, but I'm like, look, you now you have a W-2. You made $2,000, $1,700, whatever it was. Like, we're going to put that in there. You're going to give me a piece. I'm going to put in the rest, and that's going to be a little nest egg for you down the road, and we'll invest it. And they ultimately, had tens of thousands of dollars when they, finished school just from that on top of things. And, it just, you try and give them that boost. So I'm looking at the clock. I made this note to follow up with you a couple minutes back, and certainly for those watching the audibles, the visual on YouTube, you can see the plethora of books behind you. So what are your top 3? So folks, let me just recap here. Adam is 31 years of age. He's in the world of sales. He shared with us that he goes to events, networking opportunities, mastermind groups and the like. That's what he invests in. He reads a lot, books on tape, books on Audible, I guess these days. So we'll just call it Audibles. I'm dating myself with the books on tape. And so he invests in that. And so, leave us, as we bring this to a close, what are your top 3 as a 31-year-old millennial? If I've got somebody listening, what would you tell them would be the first 3 books or audibles or something that you would start them on their journey with? Can you
absolutely
put your fingers on that?
Great question. So my top 3 books that absolutely changed my life are, number 1, Power versus Force.
Power
by Dr. Hawkins. I think I have it. I can grab it real quick.
All right.
So I have 2 of the 3. I gave the third one away because I'm a huge fan of that. If I read it once, twice, and it's not one of my favorite, or if I already got as much out of it, I like to give it to people. So Power versus Force, number 1.
All right.
Number 2, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. A lot of people think Think and Grow Rich is the good one. I think this one is an absolute game changer. And number 3, why? Well, because it's very controversial. It wasn't allowed to be published when it first came out. Everyone in Napoleon Hill's family had to pass away. It got published in 2011, and it was written in the
20s or 30s.
20, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was the 1920s.
90 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And so essentially, what it is it's an interview with the devil on why the state of the world is the way it is. Kids get cancer, things like that. So definitely a good read or a listen.
All right.
And number 3 is Psycho-Cybernetics. This is a good one in terms of mindset and how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. So those 3, Power versus Force, Outwitting the Devil, and Psycho-Cybernetics.
Wow. Not the 3 I would have expected
what were you expecting?
Hey, well, you said Think and Grow Rich, earlier in it, but no, I mean, those, let's put it this way. I've never read or listened to those 3 books.
That's my goal.
You got 3 on my list. So, you old. No, there's a plethora of stuff that's out there these days. Right. It certainly depends on what your genre is and what you're looking for. But, if you're in sales, there's litany of sales material, to go out and listen to. And if you're looking for personal growth or motivation or just, finance, there's a gazillion things, and you just got to take small bites of the apple. If you're a commuter, you go to the gym, put in the earbuds, listen for 10 or 15 minutes. You can't earbud in the car, but obviously put it in the speaker in the car. But, I used to drive 20, 30 minutes to work, and I had my cassettes, and I would pop them in and play, no bull selling and psychology of selling. And I mean, my wife may have eventually had me throw them away, but I had a big plastic tub of dozens and dozens of, it was a cassette album. It'd be like 6, 8 cassettes, and you'd open it up, and you'd get that from Nightingale Conant. You'd have a subscription, and you got Earl's monthly message, and then you had a list of stuff you could buy, and I was always getting it. And I got to tell you, none of my peers listened to anything back in those days.
That's leverage for you right there.
None of them.
And you know what? Something what you just said, in the car going on a walk, Brian Tracy preaches that also. Turn your car into a classroom.
100%.
Right? It's a game changer. Absolute game changer.
I think my first year, I could say candidly that Audible has been less frequented by me because of the podcast, because I've picked up so many podcasts now that I listen to, and every day I have something on. So my Audible and books have dwindled. But that first year on Audible, I went through like at least 20 books. Yeah. And I try and listen twice because I'm usually doing other things. So, you want to repeat and pick up things. But people pull out a book and a name, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I go to my Audible. I'm like, yep.
You know what? People who don't have a subscription or don't want a subscription, YouTube. If you type in X book audio, it'll be there. I put it on 1.5 speed so I can listen to it twice as fast, or 1.5 times as fast. And then it's on to the next one, The one thing that I cannot break through that yet, though, is listening to an audiobook while I'm at the gym pumping weights. I need some kind of music, bass in it to pump me up. So that's the next level I want to get.
Yeah, treadmill's a little bit better.
Right, exactly.
The cardio stuff, the bike, treadmill, stuff like that, you could do it. But the weights, you gotta get a little more motivated.
You got to.
All right, so we got power versus force, outwitting the devil, and psycho-cybernetics.
That is correct. Yep.
Did I get that right? I wrote all three down.
Yep.
All right, Adam, this was great. Thank you so much, folks. The message here really is invest in yourself. So I thought I was going to get all kinds of pearls of wisdom of he's buying this, that, the other thing, and dollar cost averaging and 401ks and Roths. And he threw me a curveball. We talked about going to networking groups, getting in the room. He and I are very kindred spirits in that regard. This is a young, I got to say young, because you're young to me, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
A young person that is ahead of the curve, in my opinion. He's dropping nuggets here, and I hope the younger person out there listening today got to the end, took some notes, is going to go out, get in the room. More hands you shake, the more money you make. That's Coach Burt-ism. I don't know. I'm sure he got it from somebody else, but I pass it along. One of his books was Person of Interest. That was one of the first things of his that I read, which got me into being on social media and attracting. Instead of chasing, you want to attract. And so you become a person of interest, and my branding and marketing and everything is hopefully gets me that inbound activity. And so there's stuff that we could be doing on small levels. And the key is always is just get started.
That's right.
Just get started. Maybe have a plan. Even if you don't have a plan to start.
Yep.
Okay. You can't go back in time. I can't go backwards. I can't say I should have done this and I should have done that and live in a world of regret. As they say, the rear view mirror is smaller than your windshield for a reason. You need to be looking forward, not looking back.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? If they do start and then they happen to get stuck, they need to ask the plan man. Okay. That's what they need to do.
There's plenty of places to go with this. Adam, thank you for being with us, folks.
Bruce,
please like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to come on the show, email me, Bruce at asktheplanman.com. Love to hear your topics. Love to see, talking points, what the viewer will be interested in listening to. As always, we'll see you next time. Folks, if you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the plan man. Adam, thank you so much for being with me. Continued good success to you, my friend, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Bruce. Bye-bye.